Sold to the Alpa King. Chapter 20. Ezra woke to the hush of a fortress that finally slept. Dawn sifted through pale clouds, touching broken ramparts with soft gold. He sat on the edge of the bed and watched Alara breathe. Her hand curved instinctively over the small rise of her belly. A smile drifted across her lips, as if even sleep could not dim the quiet joy inside her. When her lashes fluttered open, she found him studying her. "You look as if you still doubt we are alive," she murmured. "Alive, yes," he said, brushing a kiss to her forehead. "Though it feels like a dream after so many nights of war." They dressed slowly, savoring the ease of moving without armor. Alara fastened her mother's opal over the moonstone Ezra had given her, the two stones warm against her skin. He offered his arm, and together they stepped into the corridor, where servants whispered greetings and offered shy smiles. Lanterns had been replaced with fresh beeswax candles. Their clean scent cleared the last shadows from the air. Outside, the courtyard bore the scars of battle, scorched stone, splintered beams, but ribbons of cloth had been tied to rails and newly planted flowers peeked through cracked flagstones. Warriors moved quietly, their voices low but hopeful, as if loud celebration might wake old nightmares. Alara and Ezra walked among them, accepting bowed heads and clasped forearms. Near the well, a young recruit, barely 17, struggled to lift a crate of discarded arrowheads. His arm was bandaged to the elbow, but he refused help. Alara knelt beside him, easing the crate from his grasp. "Easy," she said. "Your wound needs rest." The boy's eyes widened. "Luna, I didn't expect—" She smiled. "Callan, isn't it? You fought bravely at the South Tower." "I tried," he said, voice trembling. "When the shadow beast leapt, I thought I'd die. Then your magic—" He swallowed hard. "Thank you." Alara touched his uninjured shoulder. "You kept your courage when fear struck hardest. That saved more lives than my flame." She lifted the crate with a flicker of golden light, setting it on a cart. "Heal well, Callan. Your pack needs you whole." His cheeks flushed with pride. "Yes, Luna." Across the yard, Cassian stood beneath a remnant of scorched banner, cane in hand yet tall with quiet strength. Ezra crossed to him, clasping his forearm. "You should be resting," Ezra said. "I rest when my pack no longer needs hope made visible," Cassian replied with a tired smile. "Look at them, Ezra. Yesterday they carried grief. Today they carry hammers and seedlings." He drew Ezra aside. "My daughter's light and your strength delivered this dawn. Protect them both." Ezra glanced toward Alara. She was laughing softly with two healer novices who argued about which flowers best masked the smell of burnt pitch. Warmth filled his chest. "With my life," he said. Cassian's gaze softened. "And after your life, if legends are kind." Alara joined them. Cassian lifted her hand, pressing it to his heart. "Celine would be proud. And terrified. Grandfathers know that look." He glanced down at her belly. Alara covered his hand with her own. "She would sing lullabies," she murmured. "Sing them for her," Cassian answered, eyes moist. He stepped back, giving them space. Ezra slipped his arm around Alara's waist as they walked on. Through their bond, she felt his weary happiness. "You need rest," she thought toward him. "Only after you," he sent back, thumb brushing the opal at her throat. They paused beneath the repaired west arch where Damien and Seren strolled the newly sprouting garden. Damien's arm was still braced, but he held Seren's hand like a treasure. Alara and Ezra approached in time to hear Seren scold him. "If you keep flexing to prove you are healed, I will stitch your shirt sleeves closed." Damien grinned. "How else can I impress the prettiest healer in the realm?" Seren rolled her eyes, though a blush warmed her cheeks. "Bravery is impressive enough." She turned as Ezra greeted them. "Alpha, Luna." Ezra nodded at their linked hands. "I see battle forged more than victory." Damien ducked his head, suddenly shy. "Seren agreed to share my watch. Permanently." Lucas popped up behind a flowering bush, wiping dirt from his palms. Permanently? I expected at least a sparring match or a duel of herbs first. Congratulations. He mock-bowed to Seren, then to Alara. Rumor travels? Should we expect a cradle sooner than new drill schedules? Alara laughed. First the renewal ceremony, Lucas, then we count cradles. Lucas winked. I'll keep score. He jogged off, hollering for recruits to move stones he had apparently promised to help move himself. Damien watched him go, shaking his head. He'll make a formidable uncle. He already is, Ezra said. A bell chimed from the plaza. Elders in ceremonial blues filed toward the raised dais where fresh pennants fluttered, deep indigo stitched with silver flames. Cassian and Aemon led the procession. Ezra offered Alara his arm once more. Ready, he asked. With you, always, she answered. They stepped into the square. Citizens, warriors, healers crowded around, faces lit by anticipation and new sunlight. Torrin raised his staff, and silence followed like a held breath. People of Dawnfort, he said, voice clear, we gather for renewal. Darkness tried to bind us. Light chose otherwise. He turned to Ezra. Alpha King, step forward. Ezra did, and a murmur of respect rolled through the crowd. He lifted his chin, meeting every eye. We won because each soul here chose courage over fear, he said. The war's scars remain, but they remind us that unity outlasts shadow. He gestured to Alara. This fortress did not stand on my sword alone. It stands on her flame, on your flame reflected in her. He bowed to her, and the crowd echoed his movement. Torrin beckoned Alara to the dais. Heart-pounding, she climbed the steps. As she turned, sunlight struck the opal and moonstone, casting twin halos across the stone. The crowd stilled. My family once tended small hearthfires in hidden woods, she began, voice steady. When Orith hunted us, my mother said stars are lanterns for brave souls. Yesterday you burned like those stars. She laid her hand to her belly. A new lantern grows within me, born of your courage and our love. Gasps, then cheers rolled like thunder. Tears streaked faces. Warriors raised fists. Cassian wept openly. Ezra's eyes shone, pride fierce. Torrin lifted the flame-embroidered cloak and placed it over her shoulders. We name you Bringer of Dawn, Luna of the Silver Flame. Wolf howls split the air, joyous and wild. Alara felt the sound in her bones, in the flutter of tiny life, in the unbreakable circle of her mate's love. Ezra joined her, drawing her cloak hood back so the crowd could see her smile. When the cheers at last softened, Torrin announced feasting at dusk. Builders resumed their tasks, children chased petals blown from celebratory bouquets, and the elders dispersed to plan. Evening fell warm and gentle. Lanterns dotted the tower balcony where Marinette had laid a simple meal of herb-roasted pheasant, sweetbread, and berry cordial. Candles flickered in glass bowls, reflecting off polished stone. Alara breathed the lavender-laced breeze. It's beautiful. Ezra produced a small velvet pouch. Not as beautiful as the Luna who saved us. He drew out a pendant. 2 slender flames, one silver, one gold, twining together around a tiny milk opal. He fastened it at her nape. Past and future, he said. Everything between belongs to us. She turned, cupping his cheek. Then let the future begin. They toasted in quiet. Over cordial and soft laughter they shared memories, silly fears, and hopes for their child. Gardens near the south field, a library of stories, a nursery where laughter never falters. Later, candlelight cast their shadows across the bed's linen as Ezra's palms traced the barely visible curve of her belly. He kissed the new pendant. Then her lips, slow and reverent. Their lovemaking was gentle, reverberating with gratitude and the promise of days without swords. They drifted asleep entwined in silk sheets, moonlight draping them like silver ribbons. Seasons turned. Summer's perfume shifted to autumn spice. The fortress grew gardens in old battlegrounds. Children's voices rang where warriors once shouted. Ezra's silver streaks brightened, Alara's belly blossomed, and the pack watched over her like devoted sentries. Wind rattled shutters one dawn as a contraction gripped her. She gripped Ezra's arm, laughter and tears mixing. Serene, calm, though eyes sparkled with nervous joy, ushered her to the birthing room, scented with sage and warm water. Aemon marked runes upon the doorpost for safe passage of new life. Inside, Alara labored with fierceness and grace. Serene guided her breathing. Midwives offered cool cloths. Between waves of pain, Alara reached inward, mind linking with Ezra, pacing outside. "I'm with you," he sent, every step, every breath. "I know," she replied, drawing strength. In the corridor, Ezra stalked like a caged wolf. Cassian leaned on his cane, assuring him births carried pain but brought unmatched glory. Lucas joked, "If she names the pup after me, you owe me 5 sparring wins." Damien countered, "She'll name her after serenity, not chaos." Laughter subdued their anxiety. At last a cry pierced the silence, high, fierce, alive. Seren opened the door, eyes shining. "Alpha, come meet your daughter." Ezra moved but stumbled, knees weakening. Lucas steadied him with a grin. "Go." Inside, candle glow haloed Alara's sweat-damp hair. She cradled a tiny bundle swaddled in soft linen. The baby's cheeks were pale rose. A delicate silver streak shimmered in her dark hair. Alara looked up, tears glimmering. "Meet Elyra," she whispered. "Light and legacy." Ezra fell to his knees, awe choking him. He touched the baby's hand. Miniature fingers curled around his thumb with surprising strength. Tears spilled freely as he bent to kiss Elyra's brow, then Alara's. "Welcome, little star," he murmured, voice raw. Alara laid her free hand on his head, love flowing through their bond. Asena's gentle presence echoed inside, purring approval at the new pack member. That evening, torches ringed the high balcony. Ezra carried Elyra, wrapped now in a cloak embroidered with tiny flames, and stood beside Alara beneath a sky blazing with constellations. Cassian, Damien, Lucas, Seren, Aemon, elders, and half the fortress watched from the courtyard. Alara lifted Elyra, moonlight gilding them. She is proof that even in ruin, seeds of dawn flourish. Her eyes swept the gathering, friends, family. Guard her, guard each other. We earned this peace together. Ezra wrapped an arm around her shoulders. Tomorrow we build new stories. He kissed Alara, then pressed his lips to Elyra's small head. Through the bond he whispered promise upon promise. Beneath them the pack raised a final howl, low, harmonious, not of war but of welcome. It rolled across gardens, over rebuilt walls, into forests beyond, where no shadow lingered. Stars glittered like lanterns for brave souls. And in the fortress called Dawnfort, the Alpha King, the bringer of dawn, and their child of light stood bathed in stardust, ready to lead their people into a tomorrow forged by love, choice, and unity. A future stronger than any prophecy could ever decree. Torches ringed the plaza in preparation, their new wicks soaked with jasmine oil so the flames would smell of summer instead of war. By late morning the square pulsed with life. Warriors in freshly scrubbed mail, servants in crisp linen, children darting under benches to collect stray flower petals before scattering them again in delighted bursts of color. Musicians tuned reed pipes near the dais, testing soft notes that skittered over the murmuring crowd. Alara waited with Aemon in the shadow of the southern colonnade, cloak of indigo and silver flames draped over her arm to keep it pristine until the moment of investiture. She smoothed the fabric, hands trembling only slightly. Ezra was speaking with the elders near the steps, nodding at questions about the schedule and reassuring them that no enemy lingered beyond the ridge. Cassian stood with them, leaning on his cane, yet emitting an aura of steady calm. Damien and Lucas had been drafted into crowd management. They posted themselves at opposite corners, joking through signs to keep fleeing nerves at bay. Seren slipped up beside Alara, offering a cool, lavender-scented cloth. "For your brow. The sun warms quickly." "Thank you," Alara murmured, dabbing at heat along her temples. "Does Damien behave?" Seren's lips curved. He polished his breastplate thrice, trying to see if he looked presentable. She glanced at Ezra. "Your mate is faring about the same." "I see." Alara wrapped the cloth about her wrist like a ribbon. "And you? Ready to stand beside a commander who terrifies siege towers?" "He's less frightening when he forgets to guard his left side." Seren's voice dropped conspiratorially. "I keep reminding him I could jab a needle there." Alara laughed under her breath. "Perfect balance." A hush dropped over the plaza. Torin approached the edge of the dais, staff tapping. "People of Dawnfort, gather your hearts to witness renewal." He gestured to Ezra. The murmur dissolved into reverent silence. Ezra climbed the steps, silver-striped hair gleaming beneath midday sun. His eyes sought Alara. When they met, warmth rushed through their bond, steadying her, lighting him. He turned to the crowd, projecting his voice without effort. "We stand where fear once rooted," he began. "These stones remember every cry. Today they will remember laughter. Together we broke shadow by refusing to turn upon each other. No single sword claimed victory. Every hand did." He paused, gaze flicking across children perched on shoulders, elders leaning on staffs, wolves in battered armor who nodded back with tears. "I promise that the legacy of this dawn will be more than surviving. We will thrive, rebuild, and choose the light every day." Cheers rippled, first hesitant, then roaring until the pennants overhead snapped. Ezra raised a palm. Silence gently returned. "Honor belongs also to the flame that guided us. My mate, your Luna, Alara." Heart hammering, Alara moved. Each step onto the dais felt buoyed by invisible hands, memories of Celine's lullaby, Cassian's proud glance, Ezra's unwavering belief. She set the cloak over her shoulders, silver flames catching sun and sparks. Faces blurred into a single upturned field of hope. Her voice carried clear. "Prophecy named me a key, but prophecy forgot the lock is choice. You chose bravery yesterday. Choose peace tomorrow." She pressed fingers to her belly. "Life grows because you defended a world worthy of it." Her words hovered. Then she exhaled the truth aloud. "Ezra and I are expecting a daughter." The crowd inhaled as one before sound exploded. Howls, applause, laughter. A child's excited squeal. Tears streaked unashamed down Warrior's cheeks. Damien whirled Serene into a brief spin. Lucas wiped imaginary sweat from his brow as if overwhelmed by joy. Cassian cradled his chest, shoulders shaking in silent thanks. Aemon raised his hands, a faint golden shimmer spiraling skyward from his fingertips. "Blessed be the bringer of dawn," he intoned. The elders echoed, voices layered like chords. As their chant faded, musicians struck a bright cadence, pipes fluttering, drums offering slow heartbeats. Festivity spilled into midday. Long tables appeared, laden with herb bread, roasted game, sweet wine. Ezra and Alara mingled, fielding congratulations. A curly-haired toddler toddled up, offering Alara a dandelion crown. She accepted, placing it on the child's head instead, earning a delighted giggle. Near the fountain, Lucas mock-fenced with 2 recruits using wooden spoons. "Footwork, lads. Balance like a feather, sting like a bee." Damien lounged on a bench, smirk tugging his lips as Seren dabbed ointment on his knuckles. "You could let them win once," Seren teased. "I serve public confidence," Damien replied. "Seeing me fall would damage morale." Lucas lunged theatrically, spoon clattering from Damien's belt where he had hooked it earlier. The plaza erupted in laughter. Damien spread hands in mock surrender, then tugged Serene down beside him, whispering something that drew a blush to her cheeks. Alara watched, tears prickling, not of sorrow but of relief so profound it felt like music in her bones. Ezra joined her, offering a slice of honeyed apricot tart. As she bit in, he spoke softly. "Ready for part 2 of the day?" Ceremony concluded, feast underway, what remains? He inclined his head toward the tower. A quiet promise. When sunset flushed the sky coral, they climbed the spiral steps to their chamber. Candles flickered along the railing, each nestled in a tiny glass cup painted with white leaves and silver flames. At the top, Marinette bowed over a table laid with modest dishes, rosemary pheasant, sugared walnuts, and fresh berries nestled in cream. She winked at Alara, then retreated, closing the door with conspiratorial care. Ezra drew Alara to the balcony. A gentle breeze fluttered her cloak as he produced a moonstone pendant, twin flames entwined, holding between them a pearl the color of dawn. He fastened it beside the other stones. "2 flames," he said softly. "Yours. Mine. Guarding the spark we made." She touched the pendant, emotions swelling. "What if I fail as mother?" The question slipped out, raw. "You forged hope amid war." He cupped her cheeks. "You will nurture hope when peace is all we breathe." He kissed her gently, lingering. Minds met, her nerves tumbling like petals, his assurance wrapping them in calm. They dined at the small table, talking of seedlings to plant, lullabies to write, visiting allied packs in spring. After dessert, Ezra brushed crumbs from her lip with his thumb, then laced his fingers through hers, guiding her to the bed, draped in linens fresh as sunrise. There they undressed each other with unhurried reverence, tracing every scar and curve discovered across battles and healing nights. His lips wandered the new pendant down to the swell that sheltered their daughter. "Elyra," he whispered. The name Alara had dreamt, but never spoke aloud. She gasped, tears welling. "You heard it," she breathed. "In my heart," he answered. "Light and legacy." He pressed a kiss over the curve, then claimed her mouth. They moved together slowly, breathing in time, love washing away lingering echoes of fear. When release came, it felt like a ripple of sunrise rolling across skin, lighting chambers long hidden. They drifted to sleep, wrapped in silky warmth, candle flames bowing low. Days melted into weeks, then months as harvest gold replaced summer green. The fortress courtyard sprouted vegetable beds where craters had scarred stone, and children threaded ribbons through apple branches while elders taught new songs. During crisp mornings, Ezra walked patrol with Lucas, discussing trade routes and border harmony. Damien drilled recruits, then delivered himself dutifully to Seren for shoulder exercises, complaining only enough to make her laugh. Alara spent hours in the herb garden with Eamon, refining gentle wards to keep winter chills from newborn lungs. Cassian often joined, telling stories of the dawn circle, voice growing stronger alongside Alara's belly. At night, she and Ezra lay beneath quilts, mind-linking wonder into futures they could not yet see but believed in fiercely. Winter's first snow whispered through cloud banks the night Elyra chose to come. Alara woke with a low cry. Ezra's eyes snapped open. Seren arrived within minutes, her presence soothing as summer rain, followed by midwives carrying linen and warm water. Eamon traced protective runes that glowed like tiny suns around the doorframe. Labor was long. Alara clenched Ezra's hand, sweat cooling on her temples while winds howled against shutters. Midwives encouraged steady breathing. Seren whispered, "You're guiding dawn again." Between contractions, Alara felt Ezra's thoughts brush hers, steady stones across rushing water. Outside the chamber, Damien paced, sling forgotten long ago, thumb worrying a carved wolf charm he'd made for luck. Lucas leaned on a pillar, wagering whether the pup would inherit Ezra's scowl. Cassian sat, prayer beads moving through Y's fingers, though his lips smiled. When at last a cry split the hush, the corridor erupted. Saren opened the door, face luminous with relief. She's here, healthy, strong. Ezra slipped past her, heart hammering louder than any battle drum. Candlelight painted soft halos across the room. Alara lay against pillows, hair damp, exhausted smile radiant. In her arms nestled Elyra, tiny fists waving in the air. Ezra dropped to his knees. Tears blurred the world. Alara guided Elyra into his arms. The infant's eyes, green flecked with silver, blinked at him. Downy hair already bore a fine silver streak, proof of legacy. His breath hitched. "Welcome, light of my life," he whispered. Elyra's small mouth pursed. A hushed sigh escaped her lips as if she recognized his voice. Alara watched, tears and laughter mingling. She patted the mattress. Ezra lay beside her, cradling Elyra between them. Through their link, Ezra sent awe. Alara returned love so vast it felt like dawn expanding. Damien, Lucas, Cassian, and the elders were allowed brief entry. Each stepped quietly, offering gifts. A carved rattle from Damien, a silver anklet from Lucas, with exaggerated bow, a tiny quilt embroidered by elders, and Cassian's heirloom medallion of the Dawn Circle. Tears flowed freely. Then they left the family in private reverence. Later, under a sky dazzling with winter stars, Ezra carried Elyra to the balcony. Alara leaned into his side, cloak wrapped around all three. Frost crystals glittered on railings. Wind was crisp but gentle. Ezra held Elyra up so she could greet the silent heavens. "These are lanterns for brave souls," he murmured, echoing Selene's words. Alara placed her hand over his. "Carry their light inside you," she whispered to their daughter, "because one day you will guide us beyond even this dawn." Below, lanterns glowed along rebuilt streets. Wolves sang lullabies where war chants once rang. The fortress, reborn, cradled its future. Ezra kissed Alara's temple. "Together we built this world," he said, "and together we will teach her to choose love." She nuzzled Elyra's soft hair, opal and moonstone pendants glinting side by side, past and present flames guarding tomorrow. They stood until frost painted the balustrade silver, until stars faded into a new sunrise. Behind them, quiet footsteps approached. Seren bringing warm blankets, Lucas bearing sweet cider, Damien with a small cedar cradle he crafted through sleepless nights. Cassian walked slowly but unaided, Aemon carrying a lantern etched with ward runes. Family gathered, encircling the little flame who would one day carry their story onward. And as first light kissed the banners above, the Alpha King, the bringer of dawn, and their child of light welcomed a world finally free to live in the gentle radiance of hope. Marinette's cider steamed in the biting air, its cinnamon scent curling around the gathered circle on the balcony. Ezra accepted a cup from Lucas, passing it first to Alara. She smiled thanks, then coaxed a drop to Elyra's lips with her finger. The newborn's tongue flicked, and in the lamplight her tiny expression changed from perplexity to pleased wonder. Soft laughter rippled through the group. "She already has refined taste," Lucas declared, "exactly like her uncle." "You?" Damien scoffed, lowering the cedar cradle beside the bed. "Your palate is as subtle as a battering ram." "I like complex flavors," Lucas retorted, "burnt meat and strong ale." Aemon chuckled, setting his rune-etched lantern on the ledge. "Complex indeed." Alara shook her head, warmth flooding her chest. Howly nocturnal winds no longer carried dread but the distant snickers of night watchers sharing jokes instead of whispered fears. Elyra yawned, curling her fist around the strand of Ezra's silver hair that brushed her cheek. Cassian stepped forward, tenderly stroking the downy streak on his granddaughter's head. "Bright as dawn," he murmured, voice thick. He withdrew a small leather journal adorned with a circlet of leaf and flame. "Selene wrote lullaby verses here. I saved them for the day her grandchild opened new chapters." Alara accepted the treasure reverently. "We'll sing them together." Damien cleared his throat, eyes shining. If the Luna permits, Seren and I would like to stand as Elyra's godparents. Ezra's brows rose. You honor us. Elyra squawked indignantly at the sudden cheer that met Ezra's words. Alara soothed her, swaying gently. Inside Alara's mind, Asina's warm chuckle curled. Our pup sings already, the wolf murmured. And soon she will run, Alara answered, wonder bursting in her chest. While the evening deepened, conversation shifted from war recollections to greenhouse plans, book drives for the fledgling library, and which festival dances would return in spring. When wind sharpened, they disbanded. Lucas to check the east wall torches, Damien escorting Seren to the infirmary, Cassian and Eamon preparing lullaby runes by the hearth. Ezra secured the balcony doors. Alara laid Elyra in the cedar cradle, inhaling the calming scent of fresh shavings. Tiny eyelids fluttered closed. Alara traced the carved wolf head at the cradle's foot, then straightened, meeting Ezra's gaze. A hush filled the chamber. Think she'll dream? He whispered. Of lanterns and lavender. Alara slipped into his arms. Candlelight flickered over moonstone and opal, twin flames resting above her heart. She lifted her face, and Ezra sealed the moment with a kiss, quiet, limitless. Their bond shimmered. Visions of sun-painted gardens, toddlers splashing at fountain edges, an aging Alpha and Luna guiding a council devoid of fear. They slipped under quilts and slept in dawn-washed silence, Elyra's soft breaths weaving through their dreams like silver thread. Snowmelt brought crocuses poking between courtyard stones. Beneath crisp skies, Alara carried Elyra close against her chest, showing her every unfurling blossom. Warriors paused, training to coo, rough hands gentling to brush a petal from dark curls. Ezra followed, hauling seed sacks for the south garden. He set them down momentarily to point out the fencing lines where fruit trees would anchor. Apples near the wall, he said, adjusting the plans, shade for children climbing. And lilac hedges to scent the nursery, Alara added. Lucas approached with 2 teenage recruits lugging spades. We'll dig the holes, Alpha. Plenty of practice after winter drills. He winked at Elyra. Your orchard, little one. The baby gurgled as though bestowing approval. Lucas puffed out his chest, marching to the plot while admonishing the recruits to treat roots with respect. Days slipped into a gentle rhythm. Dawn feedings, morning council led by Ezra and Alara with Cassian's quiet guidance, midday lessons with Eamon teaching apprentices to maintain wardstones, evenings of storytelling around a newly restored hearth where children gathered on cushions. Serene oversaw the clinic, now bustling mostly with sprained ankles from exuberant courtyard games. Damien resumed drills, his voice stern yet underlying playful when Seren appeared on the catwalk railings to deliver lunch. Ezra occasionally found Alara by herself near the garden's edge, brow furrowed in thought. He worried each time until she confessed she was attempting to write lullaby verses worthy of her mother. One afternoon he arrived with parchment hidden behind his back. Removing a rough draft of lyrics he'd scribbled at dawn, he handed them over. She read silently, tears brimming, then threw her arms around his neck. How many talents have you been keeping secret? Only those that rhyme with your name, he said, flustered. But her delighted laughter convinced him to set the verse to a gentle tune they later taught the entire fortress. On the night before spring's official first feast, Alara and Ezra stood at the parapet, surveying lanterns strung from tower to tower. Below, cooks prepared honey-smoked venison, and children practiced wheeling a tiny handcart to transport their own lanterns. Cassian had insisted a portion of every harvest would feed not only the pack but traveling families displaced by past wars. Dawnfort belongs to all who carry light. As the moon rose full and serene, Alara leaned into Ezra. Through their link they sensed Elyra dreaming peacefully in the nursery. The opal and moonstone pendants pulsed with subtle resonance, synchronizing with the ward runes that now hummed gently rather than flared in alarm. Balance. It's almost too quiet, Ezra said softly. I keep expecting drums. We will face drums again someday, Alara answered. But not drums of war, celebration. She brushed away wind-tossed strands from his forehead. We choose calm now. He kissed her, tasting salt of winter air and honey of future days. Below, Lucas's laughter rang clear as he attempted to teach Serene's youngest apprentices a stumbling jig. Damien eventually intervened, guiding steps with surprising patience. Nearby, Eamon spent time transcribing final lines of prophecy, adding a new verse, his own, praising the choice that flames brighter than swords. Later, inside the nursery, Alara rocked Elyra in the faint glow of starlight, humming the lullaby. Ezra watched from the door, arms crossed loosely. Elyra's tiny fist clutched the twin flame pendant Alara had placed at her feet. Its pale gem caught moonlight and reflected like a droplet of dawn caught in silver. I think she already dreams of adventure, Ezra said. Let's teach her to adventure wisely, Alara replied, lowering Elyra into the cradle. To wield light as shield and compass. Asina's voice murmured in Alara's mind, pleased. Pack strong, pup bright, future wide. Always, Alara thought. They stepped onto the balcony one last time before sleep. Wind carried faint fragrance of lilacs, early blooms coaxed by Eamon's gentle spells. Ezra wrapped his arms around Alara, her back to his chest. Elyra's cradle glow spilled behind them, casting silhouettes of three intertwined. Below, lanterns began to lift skyward, first by children's hands, then by warriors, then elders, each flame representing a fallen friend, a memory, a promise. Lanterns bobbed upward like golden fish, clustering among stars. One lantern drifted near the balcony. Ezra reached out, touching its silk, and whispered a name, Tanya's youngest guard, who had died turning against the conspirators on the final night. Alara whispered another, Callan's older sister, lost at the western breach. They released the lantern together. It ascended, joining hundreds glimmering like new constellations. Ezra turned Alara in his arms. We have guided them from prophecy into possibility, he said. And they guide us in return, she replied. They kissed softly, sealing not an end but a beginning. Their thoughts braided through the bond, visions of Elyra toddling across orchard grass, of second and maybe third children chasing her laughter, of Damien and Serene exchanging vows beneath blooming lilacs, of Lucas wooing a warrior who could outspar him, of Cassian teaching dawn song to apprentices, while Eamon penned legends of choice. They lingered until the last lantern blinked beyond sight, then slipped inside, closing balcony doors on a fortress blanketed by warm lamplight and hopeful whispers. In the coming years, songs would speak of the Alpha King and his bringer of dawn, how they forged peace where fear ruled and built gardens where ashes lay. But tonight, they were simply Ezra and Alara, two weary souls with arms around each other and a tiny heartbeat steadying their future. Above Dawnfort, the stars burned bright, not prophetic runes, not omens, but lanterns for brave souls who had chosen, and would keep choosing, love. And somewhere in the cradle, Elyra stirred, sighing as if she too knew the world awaited her light. The end.